Climate change offers one of the most pressing challenges of our times, and the picture is particularly daunting from above. Mount Everest and other peaks may offer a prelude of what's to come, and the guardians of these mountains are inviting the rest of us to join their fight. I'm Anelise Borges, and this is The Stream.
No, seriously, what is this place?
This is heaven.
Everest has lost the respect it deserves. Time for her to regain it, I think.
Sherpas, the legendary Nepalese mountaineers, and their homelands are in a vulnerable position. Higher temperatures in the Himalayas are triggering changes on the Sherpas' livelihoods and culture, offering all of us even more proof of the interconnectedness of human existence and environmental health. Today, we look into the Sherpas' fight to protect their homelands and the opportunity and lessons they have to offer us in mitigating the effects of climate change. Joining us to discuss this are Dawa Sherpa, a Nepalese climber, environmental activist and tourism entrepreneur based in Kathmandu; Nima Sherpa, who conquered 13 out of the world's 14 highest peaks and plans to break even more records; and Tashi Malik, who alongside her twin sister climbed the 7 summits and reached the North and South Poles. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. You are all so accomplished that if we were to list everything that you've done, we would be here for the entire show just doing that. But Dawa, I would like to start with this particular moment, which I believe was a very special moment for you. This is Dawa at the top of Mount Everest. Take a look.
My name is Dawa Sherpa. I'm on the top of Mount Everest. As you can see all around us, there's ice and snow and glaciers. But it's predicted that by 40 years, all this will have melted away. Not only will this be a loss for us mountaineers, this is a treasure for us, but it is also a vital necessity for billions of people who depend upon these glaciers for water.
Dawa, your message there basically is it sums up why we decided to do this show. Can I ask you just how you've been observing climate change in the mountains?
Thanks, Anelise. Well, first of all, for the opportunity to be able to speak to you about the problems that we are facing, right? The biggest problem that we as mountaineers are seeing is, immediately the mountain itself is melting. The glaciers are melting. And it's causing huge amounts of problems for us, from avalanches to icefall collapses to even rockfalls, because, the ice that used to work as glue to stick the rocks onto the slopes no longer is there. And so we're seeing more rockfalls. So as mountaineers, our lives are more at threat now than ever before. So this, within the microcosm of being inside an expedition is already a huge problem, let alone what's going on further down below in the villages where, our friends and families live. Where we are at constant threat of things like glacial lake flooding, as well as even, the potential loss of our water supply as the glaciers disappear. So there's so many things that are going on in the Himalayas, and we are just overwhelmed with how to fight it.
You bring so many important points, and I'm going to get the other guests as well a chance to talk about them. But Tashi, you and your sister among the world's most accomplished female climbers, and as such, you're privileged witnesses to this very worrisome situation. I mean, we're talking about ice that took 2,000 years to form that is now melting on Mount Everest. Can you talk to us about the risks you and your sister may have encountered when attempting to climb these mountains? How much more dangerous are things getting for you guys out there?
Certainly. I mean, one of the experiences that vividly highlights the impact of climate change and I guess over-tourism has occurred during one of our expeditions to Mount Everest. In the past, the Khumbu icefall, a very critical and perilous section of the climb, was more predictable and navigable. However, during a recent expedition, we noticed alarming changes. The icefall had become significantly more unstable with larger and more frequent ice collapses. We have these seracs, which are these large ice towers, were melting at an accelerated rate, creating more crevasses and making the passage much more dangerous. I think one particular incident stands out as, we were making our way through the icefall. We heard a thunderous crack and watched in horror as a massive ice block just broke off and crashed down a route that we had crossed just minutes earlier. And this was a stark reminder of increasing risks posed by the rapidly changing ice conditions, And additionally, I think over-tourism on Everest has had a noticeable impact. The sheer number of climbers has led to overcrowded routes, resulting in longer wait times and increased danger, especially in the dead zone above 8,000 meters where, oxygen levels are just very critically low. So the increased traffic also contributes to environmental degradation, with waste management becoming such a significant issue. And these changes, I think, have profoundly affected the lives of Sherpas as well. They now have to spend more time planning and adapting routes, taking into consideration the increased instability of the ice and the heightened risks. And the need for enhanced safety measures, and being more cautious, progress has become the paramount.
Nima, on social media, we came across something very concrete about how climate change is affecting, again, not only mountaineers and this industry, but also the people that live in the Himalayas. Take a look.
A snowless winter can have multiple consequences for the upcoming seasons. Water is going to impact agriculture, and at the same time, the regions depend on hydropower, and turbines without water will not be able to run and provide electricity. The evidence to what is causing this is so far limited, but all fingers point to the extreme temperatures that we saw during the previous year. As temperatures continue to rise and we continue touching the 1.5-degree mark, the snowless winter, droughts, and dry seasons might become actually much more common.
Dawa, you've already touched on this, but I want to get Nima's observations here. Can you tell us how you have seen people's lives and livelihoods in the communities affected by climate change?
Yeah, so, talking about me, I haven't climbed for a long time. I've just got into climbing for last 2 years. Before that, I had been to some treks. I had been to the Khumbu region, so I had already seen how the Khumbu region looked, how the glaciers were there. But just within 2 years, when I started climbing, I switched from trekking to climbing. I got to saw a lot of things in a very quick span of time. Even in Everest itself, when I was there last year, the Khumbu icefall was, I don't know, at least we could see a way, and at least it was, for me, I felt it to be safe. But just this season, I saw many of my friends' videos and photos and telling me, they couldn't find the route there, and it's much harder than when I was there. Even for me, when I was just in Kanchenjunga, while coming down, all the anchors were already outside of the ice, and all the ropes, they were, we couldn't trust while coming down. And then when we came down to the valley, we saw a lot of changes within just weeks. In Khumbu and a lot of other places. And yeah, it was just very, I don't know.
Does that scare you? And I mean, do people in communities, not necessarily the climbers, but people that live in these communities around these mountains, do they tell you that they are scared about, I don't know, for example, the amount of water that they have available?
Yeah, I think the problem is the melting glaciers is not a problem, but the problem is that it's melting faster than we're expecting it to be. Sometimes there's a lot of water coming, sometimes there's overflowing, sometimes there's no water, sometimes there's a lot of snow, sometimes there is no snow. So it's very inconsistent with the weather and with everything happening. So I think it's a little bit confusing for people to live there, what to adapt. It affects a lot in agriculture also. So sometimes you might be expecting to rain to grow the crops, and sometimes it might not rain. So you have to kind of adapt into this kind of situations. So I think it does affect a lot to this community. And when I do go on a trek, when I do, walk through the valley to go perform expeditions, a lot of them do tell us sometimes we're having a lot of problems with water. Sometimes there is no water. Sometimes they're sometimes it's confusing for them because they don't know what's happening.
Of course.
So it's little bit...
As you said, it's very difficult for them to get organized, to predict these things and to get organized. For those unfamiliar with the Sherpas, we found a very beautiful take on the identity of the people and how intrinsically linked it is to the landscape. Take a look.
The world knows the Sherpa people as high-altitude guides or mountain porters. But actually, Sherpas are more than just that. Sherpas are an ethnic group from the Himalayas, specifically directly from the valleys of the Mount Everest. The Sherpas quite literally draw their identity from the mountains. Having lived here for so many centuries, even our genetic code is altered so that we not only can survive in the mountains, we can thrive in the mountains. So the mountains are a part of us, we are a part of the mountains.
Dawa, that's you narrating that video there. I wanted to ask you about this spiritual connection and how much this is being affected by climate change as well.
Yeah, so, for us, the mountains aren't a piece of rock, they are holy places. They are the abodes of the gods. I mean, that's literally what the Himalaya means. But they really are living beings, they are deities for us. And so before any of us Sherpas and even Western mountaineers climb in the Himalayas, it is very important for us to do a prayer ceremony, which we call a puja. And until we do that, nobody, dares set foot on the mountain. So for us, it's very important to please the mountain gods. And it's not just about pleasing the mountain gods by doing a prayer ceremony. We also want to do good things. We teach everybody that when you're in the mountains, have only good thoughts, do only good deeds, because if you don't, the mountain gods won't be pleased. So you might not have a successful expedition, or worse, you might get into an accident or even lose your life. So for us, it's very important that, we please the mountain gods. And part of that then is also to take care of the mountain, to clean the mountains, and also to fight against this global problem called climate change, which is stripping the mountains of all the ice and the glaciers, right? So this is for us very important. To give you an example of how climate change is actually impacting our identity itself, there's a mountain called Amadablam in the Everest region. And Amadablam, the name literally means the mother's necklace. And the necklace actually is referring to a big glacier right in the center of the mountain. The mountain sits out with her arms spread out like this, and there's a big glacier right on the center on her face. Unfortunately, this glacier has been collapsing, has been melting and collapsing and disappearing, even so much so that some climbers have lost their lives. And slowly we're losing the Dablam of Amadablam. So, in very real terms, we are losing, what it means to what the mountains mean to us.
Nima, Sherpas are the main driving force of the mountaineering industry. And Tashi said something before, and I wanted to get your take. When it comes to the price that you guys pay for it, you're almost the victims of your own success in a way because of overcrowding that we're seeing these days in mountains. Can you give us your take on this?
Yeah, so Sherpas have always been like part of 8,000-meter mountains. 8 of the 8,000-meter mountains out of the 14 are in Nepal. 7 was being climbed before, and 1 was left. But that also we climb this season, some of our Sherpas. So now we can climb all the 8,000 meters mountain in Nepal, from Nepal itself. And, so the whole Sherpa community getting into mountaineering started when Tenzing Norgay was, globally renowned as a global athlete 71 years ago when they climbed Mount Everest. And since then, there's been a lot of changes, but, Tenzing Norgay was kind of the first global athlete, the biggest athlete Nepal has ever seen. So he was the biggest inspiration, even for me till today. When we talk about Sherpa, I think he is the one who shaped the brand, Sherpa. Until now, there are many Sherpas, Kamirita Sherpa, Apa Sherpa, and many Sherpa who has continued that legacy and sort of, bring a lot of good changes and a lot of they're breaking records by themselves. And I think, yeah, now we are seeing a lot of changes. You know, now especially the younger generation of Sherpas like me, we also want to be like more like athletes now. You know, we just don't want to be guys or just somewhere. We also want to have our own project. We also want to be athletes. We also want to be sponsored by Red Bull or, you know, biggest sponsors. So I think this is kind of a very good change that we are seeing a lot of the Sherpas who are actually want to do this for passion. You know, before it was because of the job in itself, but now we're seeing climbers who want to do this for passion and who want to do this as a professional sports. You know,
as Tashi was saying before, the number of climbers is only increasing. Tashi, can you tell us a little bit more about how do you reconcile the two? How do you, I don't know, minimize the impact of these expeditions, for example?
Well, I mean, looking at the challenge for sure, I mean, there's definitely the increased danger, you know, from, like I said, avalanches and ice falls that have sort of prompted climbers and the Sherpa community to adopt more cautious approaches to guiding. They prioritize now advanced risk assessment, utilize, you know, safer routes, and emphasize on enhanced training in avalanche safety and rescue techniques. This shift also aims to sort of mitigate risks and ensure the safety of climbers in these hazardous mountain environments. So I do know that there's a shift and focus to make the climbing more appropriate, but also taking advice from local people, local guides who have been guiding in the region. Because very often, you know, we're not climbing all over the world. And hearing from peers and people that are actually guiding every year can be beneficial for climbers to prepare and plan an expedition to be safe out there. And also going with the whole idea of being mindful, you know, because I feel like mountaineering definitely provides an escape from everyday pressures, fostering sort of peace, clarity, and accomplishment. But the sense of connection with nature, and especially with younger generation, I see that they're valuing nature experiences, leading to sort of a greater desire to protect and preserve the environment.
On whether technology could potentially play a role here and help out, take a look at this, and then I'll get our guests to react. Dawa, your thoughts here on how much technology could help, I don't know, potentially diminish the risks, but even potentially even replace some of the Sherpas in the most risky situations. Is that something that you foresee in the future?
Yeah, Anelise, you know, the development of technology and its integration into mountaineering is nothing new. It's been going on since forever, since the beginning. If you look at, you know, even the clothing, the equipment that mountaineers use, technology has always played a very big part. And that's part of the reason why also the expeditions these days are far more successful than they used to be. To give you a very, you know, a couple of very good examples, the integration of better oxygen masks, oxygen systems has meant that far more people can climb ever safely. You know, another one being better weather forecasting, you know, with ever more powerful computing. So that's also made climbing more successful and safer. So the next step then would also be in the logistics aspect, and it's nothing new. On the China side of Mount Everest, we know that we can drive all the way to Everest Base Camp, whereas in the early days of the British climbers in the 1920s, you'd have to trek for a month, right? So that has always been a part of mountaineering. Now, when we're talking about drone technology, it is coming to the mountaineering field. Helicopters have already made a huge impact in terms of making the climbing safer, in terms of allowing climbers to go from one mountain to another, to climb in a very short period of time multiple peaks. But now drones are bringing that directly onto the mountain, where instead of Sherpas having to go through very dangerous parts of a climbing route multiple times, carrying multiple loads, they could just go one time through the dangerous part and then wait for a drone to do the multiple sorties to a higher altitude. And then from there, the Sherpas could take over. So I think this is a good thing in terms of keeping the Sherpas safe. And also in terms of the sustainability of the mountaineering industry going into the future, it is a fact that less and less Sherpas are interested to go into mountaineering because obviously mountaineering being a very dangerous job, and for many it's a job of last resort. There's very few other options in Nepal that would pay equally well as mountaineering, but it's a very dangerous job. And so as Sherpas are able to, educate their children, and also migrate out of Nepal, get better jobs, there are less Sherpas who are wanting to do mountaineering. And as such, in the future, I foresee that there will be, like Nima said earlier, not just Sherpa guides or Sherpa porters, there will be very few Sherpas in general, and many of them might just be like Nima, who are athletes who are not there for other people, they're climbing for themselves. And so there needs to be an alternative to providing logistic support up in the mountains.
Nima, how do you see the future? I mean, Dawa just said there are so many kids, Sherpa kids, might not even be interested in guiding people up the mountain anymore. How do you see the future of your community and your role in these mountains?
See, I'm still very young and I always like to kind of think positive, and I always like to think that things are going to be like good in the end. So yeah, now, of course, like I am very interested into being more as an athlete by myself rather than, as a guide. But of course, in like ALS or other places, guiding is a very respected and high-profile job, like the IFMGAs, and they're very respected. And but in Nepal, if you say you want to go to the mountains, you want to do guiding, the job is not, I think, well as much as respected. And so I think if in the future, if we can make like a guiding certificate certified for Nepalese, because till now I don't think we have a guiding certificate for Nepalese Sherpas, internationally recognized, it's like, so I think if we can focus on those things and make guiding kind of like, a superior job, or give something, back. Like, for example, even the government can do a lot of things, but we get a lot of revenue from these mountains. Just from Everest itself, the government get a lot of revenue. If that revenue can be generated back to the community, providing education, building infrastructures, and a lot of things, and I think we also will be motivated, and, not just the young Sherpas, even for the Sherpas who are 50 years old, 60 years old, when they retire, because physically they can't perform. And after that, they don't have any other things to do. They have no money. So, if from the revenue that the government collects, if they give for the pension or something like that, for the retired Sherpa, for the Sherpa, get them a job in some climbing schools, I think that there'll be a lot help, for the community. And
as Dawa just said, right? You need more incentives for this to be a more considered profession, a more respected profession, as you were saying. Tashi, one final word from you. What is your message to people from the outside who may want to be attempting this adventure? What is your message in terms of connecting to these mountains, respecting the environment, and respecting these communities that are guiding people through there?
Honestly, the climbing experience, have sort of empowered me and my sister and others along this, unique challenges and opportunities we've encountered as, especially women in this field. And I think the message that we've always carried forward is that, we've always constantly tried to break numerous barriers in the sport. Definitely the mountaineering community is getting more inclusive. So we have more inclusivity, encouraging diversity and participation from literally all over the world. But we really want to become the role models for younger generations, especially women and girls, demonstrating that, with determination and hard work, they can achieve their dreams regardless of, any societal expectations or gender norms. And I think our success has sort of given us that platform to advocate for gender equality in sports and other fields. As equally, it is important for men, it is important for women to get out there and challenge their core and get out of the comfort zones. So we have used our visibility to promote that. And, challenges will keep coming. I think, when we climb a mountain, we feel like there's more gender backpack that we carry to the summit. But being outside, being in nature, being in the mountains, we've realized that, the true essence of life is when you step outside, and that comes from stepping out of your comfort zone. So just really encouraging people to dream big and achieve it.
Dawa, Tashi, and Nina, thank you all so much for joining us here on the stream today. It's been great having you guys. And thank you all for watching. Don't forget to stay in touch with us on social media. If you have a conversation or a topic that you'd like to see us discuss here, use the hashtag or the handle AJStream, and we will look into your ideas. Take care, and I'll see you soon.